Hi, y'all. I'm Melissa Ushakov from the Plan Stage, and today I'm going to show you how you can manage your portfolio intake process using Epic boards. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly and show you my setup. So you can see here that I have an Epic board for Melissa Inc. I'll link to the video where I introduce the structure of this and you can see what my breakdown is. But essentially, Melissa Inc. is a top-level group with a collection of subgroups representing different organizations. So what I've done is that I've created an Epic board at this level, which is very interesting because I can see every Epic in all of my subgroups. So we can take a quick peek just so you can see. I have a very rich setup here. And having a board at the top level group allows me to see every Epic. You can get a hint about where it's at. Like you can see in this PCI compliance, it's in the banking organization and the shared services program. I'll link to the documentation on scoped labels, but I've essentially created a workflow using scope labels and have mapped out what my process is for portfolio intake. So something that is interesting and really useful is that you can control what shows up in this board. So you can see there's only 3 items here, but there's actually 7 in my backlog. And the reason is because I haven't applied a portfolio label to those items that I don't feel like are ready to be taken through the intake process. So let's say I'm the creator of this improved borrower onboarding, and I think this is ready to be taken through. I can just quickly go over here, apply the funnel label to it. And now if I go back to my board and refresh, this item's there now ready for intake. So the producer of these epics can decide basically when they should show up, because you don't want things to show up before they're ready to be reviewed. Taking things through the status is fairly straightforward. Let's say I've looked at this borrow onboarding item. As I'm looking at it, I can quickly move it to this column to signify that it's under review. If I go back to this, you can see it's updating in real time in both places. So the person that made the Epic proposal can be kept in the loop as it's going through various reviews processes. And it's fairly straightforward, like I said. In the tool, I imagine the Epic review process is as complex as you want it to make it, but you can basically drag this item across these columns to signify taking an item through a workflow. Now, something that is fairly interesting is that you can control basically what is visible at lower stages depending on what your workflow is. I know in some companies, you may want to keep epics under wraps until they are officially approved, and GitLab can definitely help you do that. So you see for this specific one, you see an I crossed over. What that means is that this item is confidential. And what this does is that only members of this group, of the portfolio shared services group, can see this. So if there are teams beneath it, they typically will have visibility to items above to allow team members to have strategic context. But you can choose to make things confidential if you want to eliminate noise from people before things are ready for review. And I'm going to show you what this looks like for a team member. So I'm going to share my other browser where I have a session under a different user. So this user that you see here is a developer on the authentication and authorization team. So if I go to their epics, all they can see are the themes. So the highest level items. They don't have visibility into any epics yet because nothing's been approved. Over here, I'm gonna unmark this as confidential so that it's now visible to this engineer and let me refresh. So this item's been officially approved. So now an engineer has visibility into it, and they can see, obviously this is test data, so hopefully descriptions are better for ethics. But it says, you know, I have this item, I can see that it's available, it's created by my product manager, and it's something that I can now start to decompose. So if I go, let me quickly navigate back. If I go to my team and I start to create issues, I can now select 2FA authentication required for everybody and start creating issues to decompose that epic. Of course, this process depends on your company's process, right? If you want to keep things hidden and under wraps until everything's officially approved, you can choose to mark epics as confidential until they get to a specific step in your workflow, or you can keep epics public and people will have access to them, and you can solely rely on your labels representing the status, so that is the marker for teams on what they should be able to work on. So I'll link to a couple of documentation items here that will help you set this up for yourself, but hopefully this was helpful to show you what this process could look like for you.